This experience took place during a time in my life that was very tumultuous. I was a college student at the time and had been smoking pot daily for a couple years before I was arrested for possessing alcohol underage and for some absurd reason was placed on probation for 1 year, in which time I had to take a drug/alcohol test once a month. This prevented my habit of smoking to continue for a while, which caused me to begin to find other mind-altering and easy-to-obtain drugs that wouldn't be tested for. I first ordered an ounce of grade B Amanitas and ate about 10 grams on my first experience. This gave me a lightheaded euphoric feeling in which I felt strong and felt strangely flexible, like I could stretch my body into forms I previously could not. The experience lasted 3 to 4 hours and overall was very mild and disappointing since I was hoping for a lot more. I then ate the other roughly 18 grams a few days later and felt much the same effects with only a slight increase in intensity. This may be because I didn't give my body enough time to rid itself of the tolerance it accumulated from the first experience, but nevertheless I was determined to experience the full effects this drug could give me, so I ordered an ounce of grade A Amanitas and also a large quantity of belladonna root, which for some reason aroused my interest while researching its deadly yet visionary qualities. When these items arrived in the mail, I decided to eat the whole ounce of Amanitas along with a small 2-inch long piece of the root to perhaps enhance the experience. I began consuming the mushrooms around 6 p.m. by balling up each cap and swallowing them, as I had read this was the recommended method of consumption. It took maybe 15 minutes to consume the ounce, and then I chewed on the 2-inch belladonna root, which I thought tasted pleasantly piney. My mindset at the time was very positive and optimistic of having an interesting yet not overpowering experience that evening, so I made the trip to a friend's house to play some cards and watch TV. The 30 minutes of time since consumption rolled by without any feeling out of the ordinary. It wasn't until about an hour after consumption when I began feeling very lightheaded and my vision began to slowly fade. 1 second I would fall back on the couch and feel like going to sleep, and the next I would explode up with a burst of energy like I was ready to run a marathon, which my friends thought was very strange. The lethargic feeling ended up drowning out the energetic feeling after 15 to 30 minutes. The effects came on very fast around that 1 hour point, so I had no bearing on the time that went by from that point until 3 hours later. The following is what little I remember of this time as well as what my friends told me. The first thing I remember is laying back on the couch looking at the TV with no auditory senses at all and my vision very tunneled. This tunneling gave me the feeling that I was inside the TV taking part in whatever it was being aired at that time. I remember glancing over at my friends as they would walk into the room and see their lips moving as they were trying to talk to me, but I heard nothing. They later said I had a very intense look on my face like I was angry, but would obviously never respond to their questions, which I'm sure was a little annoying. The next thing I remember is what tunnel vision I had, transforming into vision of an animated land of rolling hills like a painting that I was walking around in. I remember feeling very at peace and not at all frightened or paranoid. There were many animals such as deer and squirrels and dogs and horses all running around happily while I walked amongst them. My next vision took me to a large hall that looked like the throne room of a castle. There were only 2 other beings in this room besides myself, and what they looked like I do not recall. I only remember that one was the master of everything and the other was a subordinate of a more evil nature standing next to me. The head being instructed me that I was to take place in a contest that would decide the fate of every living creature on earth, and that my opponent was the evil being standing next to me. While I don't recall what they looked like, I can remember their voices very vividly. The master spoke in a loud deep voice that made it clear who was in charge, and the evil one's voice was higher pitched and raspy like a grumbling. The rules of the contest were that the master would ask a simple question and whoever could answer first won. If I won, I would return to my life and would grant it a long life of happiness, but if the evil one won, I would return to a world empty of all living creatures except myself and would live an eternity in this lonely void. The master began asking very simple questions in which both myself and the evil one would answer at the exact same time, as if the evil one was really an alter ego of myself. I remember feeling so intense trying to beat this thing, but also feeling like it was not possible. My friends later told me that during this time I was leaning over the living room table in front of the couch, rocking back and forth holding both my pointer fingers out like I was punching a button every few seconds. How strange that must have looked. The contest continued for what seemed like hours and seemed like we tied hundreds of questions presented to us until finally one question was asked, something about color. The answer was red and I had a lapse in concentration and the evil one defeated me, and I just remember screaming in this dream world like one who had just doomed the world. At that very second I snapped out of this vision and found myself sitting on the couch where I had been before, losing consciousness, feeling as if I was completely sober, and instantly I jumped and yelled the names of my friends who were not in the room because I honestly thought they'd gone along with everyone else in the world. To my relief, they were in another room playing ping pong, and I felt the largest burden lifted off of me I've ever felt at one moment. It took me a little while to gain my composure after such an intense trip. The strangest thing to me was how I so suddenly went from a dream world state to nearly completely sober and on perfect cue with the climax of my vision. I believe that there's some strange realms of the unconscious mind that most people don't know exist, and enough of these mind-altering drugs can take you there, but enter at your own risk because not every mind can bend without breaking. I later had a terrible experience with a larger quantity of the belladonna root in which I thought I would die and probably did permanent damage to my liver and kidneys. How much effect the small portion of belladonna had on this experience I couldn't tell you for sure. I do think it contributed to the drowsy effects I felt, as my subsequent belladonna experience felt the same way. I'll never venture into the world of Alice in Wonderland again, although I sometimes feel the urge.